Today I'd like to talk about my recent testing of the Spyderco Tenacious and S35vn steel. A couple years back, Spyderco announced that their budget line, the Tenacious family, the Resilience, the Ambitious, they were getting the S35vn upgrade. Having been disappointed with S35vn from other brands and hearing Spyderco basically saying that their S35vn, they were very impressed with it, I naturally wanted to test it out. In my last video, I mentioned cut testing with the 40% on the sanding roll and then 20% with the ice chops. This testing is going to be slightly different than that. And one of the reasons is because I see this particular Tenacious line with the S35vn, there's several serration patterns. When I see serration patterns, especially from Spyderco, I test slightly differently. One of the reasons being is I normally use a 1K super vitrified diamond stone from Big Brown Bear for my cut testing. The Spyderco Sharp Maker is the most commonly used tool, as far as I'm aware of, from Spyderco to maintain and sharpen the serration patterns that they list on all their knives. They don't do it with every single steel. However, using diamond versus ceramic honing rods, there's a disconnect because certain steels have harder carbides and there's a burnishing effect. I figured replicating testing using ceramic abrasive stones should mimic Sharp Maker users, so there isn't that disconnect between what a diamond edge can do. Basically, we're trying to keep it apples to apples. I tested this guy about 8 months ago. I think I got around 295, 300. I wasn't 100% sure. I know I could have gone back and researched it, but I decided to do a 1K super vitrified diamond edge on there, and I got 295 cuts strictly on the sanding roll. The next thing I did was I put a 1K edge with a ceramic water stone. My stone of choice is the Pride Abrasive 1K, but anybody that wants to replicate this test, they could use any 1K ceramic sharpening stone that they want in case they want to replicate this testing or any of my tests at all. And instead of doing the 40-20% rule to get to that 60% benchmark, I decided to go with a 35-25 ratio. I'm still hitting that 60% mark, but 25%, or should I say 5% more ice chops is to replicate a rougher user, a rougher work environment, because serration patterns, in my opinion, or the fully serrated models, generally get used with rougher work, rougher tasks, harder users. Spyderco doesn't offer everything in serrations, but when they do, a lot of people on the forum, they're quite gung-ho about it. They have their preferences. I believe serrated knives, fully serrated folding knives, have their place, even though the plain edge versions seem to work just fine for me. But I figured it's easier to test a plain edge, a little bit harder to make to make comparisons if it's capable of being in a serration pattern. Dr. Laren Thomas, he lists S35vn as a rank 5 on his toughness table. His BD1N, he listed at a 3.5. Now on my Polestar, at the 40-20 percentage ratio, it couldn't pass 60%. This, on the other hand, was able to pass 60% with a ceramic waterstone edge, not a diamond. And it kept going as well. It got up to 225 cuts, or 225 volume of work pieces out of 295 possibles. 295 was me cut testing in the most ideal conditions, and then I start incorporating multiple blunting mechanisms to actually bridge the gap between testing inside a bubble versus real world usage. Totally, I started out with 103 slices on the sanding rope, 74 chops, and offhand I can't remember how many more sanding roll cuts I was able to do to get to that 225, but I got a 76% efficiency rating on this. If BD1N is a 3.5 and it fails at 60% or lower, at a level 5, we're at 76%. So my testing is validating and backing up Laren's charts. Ideally, I'd like to see a little higher number, maybe an 80% efficiency with this S35vn, but 76% is really starting to knock at the door, especially my criteria for serrated knives, especially folders from Spyderco.